Kia ora!
I'm your Auntie Sarah.
And I'm your Auntie Manu.
And we're your Hype Aunties. And we're back with the last of our cuppa teas to talk through our learnings from our first 10 weeks of doing lives for businesses that we want to amplify in the community. Our whole idea, the whole kaupapa of Hype Aunties is to amplify businesses who might not get to see enough limelight, in our opinion, get more eyeballs on their businesses and hopefully make them more viable, get them more customers, and introduce you to some of these hidden gems in the community as well as the audience.
And we do that live because it's a way to interact with our audience, and it's also a beautiful way that we want to validate. It's an easy way to be our authentic selves, our imperfect versions, and connect through our hearts, I think, and tell our story in our unique way. So it's today we are learning, or we are sharing our learnings from the past 9 weeks to speed up your journey. It was quite a mighty journey for us. So we had our ups and downs and stumbling and celebrations. And I hope that you've seen the first two cup of coffees, the first coffee cups, and that you got something out of it. If you didn't, please do after this one. But yeah, today we are covering the last 3 weeks of the 9-week process. What were those? What were the 3 activities that we are sharing today?
The first week we're going to talk about is our trip to Durham Street in Ngaruahia, where we talked about a whole heap of cottage industry artists and creatives that make products that are sold from the Hakirimatu boutique particularly. So that was a really good week in terms of like our experience of it. However, we found that it was really slow going on socials that week, and we really don't understand why. So we definitely have ups and downs, and we can't always explain them. So that's one of the things that we're really wanting to learn more about, so that we can have more predictable outcomes. But having said that, it's still thousands of views across the week, across channels. So it's never not worth doing. It's just a good opportunity to explore why one week goes really, really well and why another week doesn't. So that's Durham Street, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. We then went to Maddox Photography, which is one of my favourite weeks from an experience perspective. We were just really spoiled to get to have that experience. We were remote in the sense that it was like in the bush. So we had no idea what connectivity was going to be like. We pre-planned to make that week pre-recorded. So we went and did that on a Monday instead of a Tuesday, which is our normal live day, and then just posted the recording on the Tuesday at 12 o'clock. And we thought we had really covered our bases by doing that. And so that, we wouldn't have those connectivity issues that we experienced at Hamilton Gardens, for example. But what we hadn't thought about was that we would need plenty of storage on our phones. And so we ran into those challenges as we went through our recording with Maddox Photography. Every week there's at least one thing. And we were just talking about the fact before that if you knew all the things that were going to go wrong, you'd definitely never do this. So don't think about it like that. Like, definitely not. Our last week that we were promoting Whare Hautotu here in Hamilton, we did almost everything wrong. So we changed roles and hadn't done sufficient planning around that. We did the recording with the phone up the wrong way. Our sound didn't work. There was just a myriad of things. Our planning was insufficient and resulted in a mammoth amount of editing, which was actually what we also learned from Maddox Photography. So you think, all of those things were lessons from previous weeks, and yet we felt the need to repeat them in week 9. So that's pretty much that's a breakdown of what we're going to cover off.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
Okay, now we can close. Now, I set our alarm on 30 minutes, not to go overboard. Which maybe it would be even less, but we find so much to share that we often get lost in time, and the alarm sets us off, and we just realized that 30 minutes was went faster than we anticipated.
One of the reasons that we're doing lives is the opportunity for your audience to interact with you, which is obviously a little bit difficult when we're sitting this side of the phone. But normally when we're out and about, it's an opportunity for you guys to ask questions and engage with the journey that we're on. And it's an opportunity for you to do the same with your audience, for your business as well. And that's what we're really wanting to shine a light on. We're wanting you to be enabled by watching these two old aunties having a crack at using lives to demonstrate how you can get extra eyeballs on your business, really without having a skill set in technology or social media for that matter. We certainly don't have that skill set, or certainly, we're building that skill set from the very ground up as we go through this process. And what we learned is, yes, we're going to stuff it all up, and we're going to look like amateurs at the beginning. We definitely have done that. And we certainly have some embarrassing moments where we were like, oh my God, did I really just do that? But at the same time, we've got 30,000 views across channels in only 10 weeks. And that's amazing. So that's an amazing opportunity we wouldn't have otherwise had. We've got all these learnings, and we've got a whole heap of new skills in our back pocket just by going through that process. So I like that saying, if you have to be prepared to be an embarrassed beginner before you can get to mastery. You're never going to be a master if you never start. And when you start, you're always going to be a clumsy, inexperienced person who makes lots of mistakes. So you have to go through that process to get to the other side. And I think we're proving exactly that. And as embarrassing as that can sometimes be, it's also really worth it.
Yeah, but what I wanted to say is that the format can come in so many shapes and forms. And it can be with the face in front of a camera, like we're doing, and having a conversation, going places, presenting. But it doesn't have to be. It really doesn't. And I'm saying that because I saw in the conversations that I had with business owners that often this is what they don't want to do. And it really stops that pursuing of the social media activities or the showcasing the products on social media and interacting with the community because they don't want to be in front of a camera. Good news, you don't have to be. It can come in different ways. It can be you delivering products. It can be you packing your products. It can be you sourcing the different ingredients. It can be shopping around, talking to people, sharing your thoughts while you're doing something else so you're not in the frame. It can be really in so many different ways. So I hope that you can expand your horizon with thinking what that could look like for me as a starting point, and God knows where will they take you. But it's a worthy experiment if you want to grow your business online. Yeah.
One of the things that Manu's done this week is get her portrait done. Amazing. Such a cool experience. Such a variety of ways that people see you and can depict you. So that was a really amazing experience. But I was just thinking about the fact that let's say that you're a portrait artist. I'm not actually interested in watching you. I'm interested in watching your hands and the way that they create that picture. So lots of artists out there and creatives are just putting the camera on their hands, and then whatever their art form is, whether it's working with clay or with flax or with pencils or with charcoal or whatever it is that their medium is, you're just watching the magic as their hands create the picture. And I think that that's a great way to not be on camera and still get the interest from your audience around your art form. So that's one option.
Totally. Yeah.
And you were talking about that in America. You were watching somebody doing something that's their business. That's a creative pursuit. Can you remember what it was?
Yeah, it was a workshop, and they were putting the scribble letters practically into writing some sentences that were meaningful to them. There was a workshop, so it was having people on board to see how they could use Scrabble to do their own sentence that will inspire them in life. And when I looked at numbers, that post had 14,000 people in there. That was the live 14,000 people. and just as many comments and interactions. So very mighty. And it's a new wave of interaction. And this is why I say going live, it's not about marketing, it's modern relationship building. It really is. But I really like the segue of the artist, because it really goes well with the first business that we are talking about today, which is the Durham Street. And I absolutely love Durham Street. The day that we chose was a day of rest, because they're so busy on the other days. So maybe the Tuesday is a day where you can actually see only some businesses, but it's a vibrant part of the community, and it has places to eat and places to shop and just stay and ground and commute with your community. So where did we go? Can you tell me more? Auntie Sarah?
Yeah, look, I think we spent most of our time while we were there at the Hakirimata boutique.
Love that place.
And what I love most about them is that they really source as much as possible local artisans' products to sell out of their store.
So many artists in there.
Yeah, it's a tiny space. It's really like a really cozy space. But there's so much, it's like eye candy. For me, anyway, and it's I think I might have overspent that day. That's, like it's just, there's so many beautiful things, and like they're all just gorgeous, and it smells divine, and all your senses are really captivated in this tiny store. And there's so many very beautifully displayed artworks as well. So there were some pencil drawings by the lady, and I've forgotten her name, who did the drawings of the actual Hakirimata trail, which is all stairs going up through the bush. And they're really gorgeous pencil drawings. And I can just imagine that, because like I personally have been up that trail hundreds of times, and I know that I'm not even close to as fanatical as some people are. So those types of pictures are really like personal to some people, because they've spent so much time there. And it's just like beautifully depicted in a really different way than what photography does. So I thought that was one really neat thing, because it's called the Hakirimata Boutique, to then have that link to the Hakirimata Trail as well. So I thought that was really neat.
Not to say that she made me do...
I made her go up.
Yeah, and go up.
You can't talk about it. You've got to experience it for yourself. Sadly, it was actually super simple. And, Manu had no problem getting up.
I walk every day, so I've been training for
she's a featherweight. Flew up, basically. It was Auntie Sarah, it was dragging her heels.
I felt it the next day. No, I must admit, I did feel it the next day.
I think I felt it for 2 or 3 days.
It was really good. And it was interesting that week, as much as we absolutely loved it, and we went everywhere, and we tried all the different techniques that we've seen working in the past. So there was time lapses, there was a lot of creativity, there were interesting insights.
It was the week we started doing landscape filming as well.
Yeah, and it worked really well from that perspective, that you can actually get a better frame of the space. But the views were very low. It was a very, very slow week. And it came to, it was really a disappointment to us, because we wanted it to be so successful, because we loved it so much, and the people in there, and a vibrant community. People were coming, going, conversations, laughter. It was just one of those places that fills your energy and, and your heart, and you just feel that you just recharge with a new in a new space, and a new energy. So that was a very interesting learning.
What I also saw was, when we looked at our stats more recently, was that during that week it was very quiet, like really quiet, like single digit views on some of the videos and posts, which we never get. Like, we're always doing better than that. So we really didn't understand why these ones were doing so reduced volume in terms of views compared to our normal mahi. But then I looked later, and actually it came almost right. Not quite as much as everything else, but in the weeks that followed, the views picked up. So we really just don't know why that week was so slow, and we haven't had it repeat since. So we haven't had that low level again. So we literally can't answer that question. And there is definitely mysteries to the algorithm. Hey, there's definitely mysteries to the algorithm.
But isn't it a very common sentence you hear online where people say the moment that you figure out the algorithm, it shifts, it changes, and what has been working doesn't work anymore. So there is this required flexibility on our side.
Definitely, there's a required flexibility. And I think the critical thing is to keep doing it. You know, like if you went, I had a stink week, so this week I won't do anything. Well, guess what? You've guaranteed no views.
Yeah.
You know, so in the following week we did Maddox photography, and we had an amazing week for views. So if we had said, Durham Street was so slow, we won't bother next week, we would have missed out on all those eyeballs for Maddox photography. So it is about consistency, and it's about failure recovery. Like, you had a bad week, don't worry about it, just have a good week this week. You know, you have to keep trying. And we've definitely found that we have bounced back when we've had a negative, like when we've been disappointed with our results, because the reality is there's no pressure on us to create any type of result. So all results are good results. It's just that we started from the first 6 or 7 weeks to have an expectation of the kind of views we would get, of the numbers, and then we didn't meet those expectations.
Yeah, but it's also the desire of really uplifting and featuring the businesses that
we want to deliver a good result for them.
Exactly, you want to make a difference. You want them to be noticed, to have to see a difference. And the weekly views can really make a difference. And this is what makes me disappointed. It's not about us. It's about the businesses and places that we go to, and that we, it almost feels that we didn't give it justice, that they're so special, and then it did not translate it into views, so that we do share it with other people, and we do unveil those hidden gems, but they stay hidden, and we're like, no!
Yeah, that's what it feels like. That's how it feels.
Yeah, but it does change.
It shifts.
It just takes time, and you did, so those numbers actually move back right.
A bit later.
So patience, stay with it. That's
absolutely. And look, what can you do better? You know, like review it and kind of try and pick it apart and see, was there anything obvious that we did or could have done differently? Or was it just a week where something else was taking up the algorithm and new posts of this nature weren't getting the eyeballs? And maybe it's got nothing to do with us, you know, and so then you don't need to change anything. But it's a great opportunity when you have a low view week to kind of review what you're doing and go, is there something we can do differently?
Yeah. Before we forget, and before we go on with the next week and Maddox photography, I just wanted to go back into what you said about the using landscape.
Oh yeah.
So this was the week that we started. So constant iteration, yes, and this is a good segue into we started by having a portrait view.
Yes.
And we were walking like Sammy's cats, really huddled together with little space around us. And then we actually shifted into a landscape view. And what that did was it was much easier for us to be in the frame, to have the parts around it as well. But it worked very well with both Facebook and YouTube, because YouTube doesn't like the portrait. So actually having it landscape, it makes it more suitable for YouTube, which gave us much better results. And on Facebook, it worked really well because, again, the frame worked well for Facebook. Mind you, Instagram, TikTok is a different story altogether. They do thrive on portrait. But if we want to compromise, go square. Because you can actually go landscape and you just resize it to a square size. You will lose a little bit of your sides on the left, on the right, but often the essence is in the middle, so your frame will still be suitable for all the different platforms with one take.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
you just don't have that optionality once you're portrait. If you're recording in portrait, which is what we did with Whare Haututu by accident, or like in our rush, we ended up recording it in portrait again after weeks of doing landscape, and so then the editing process just doesn't have the options. Like you're stuck with it that way, and you don't have the surround.
Yeah.
And so one of the things is like if what you're sharing has a lot of visual appeal, which is the case of Whare Haututu, but you've filled the screen with yourselves, then you're not seeing what it is that you're trying to share just because of the limitations of the angle or the camera lens. So yeah, I absolutely would say you record landscape, go with a square model when you're putting it up, and that gives you the best of both worlds. Yeah. Cool.
Then the following week we went into the bush with Maddox Photography,
which is in Matangi or Tamahere, sort of in between there, isn't it? Yeah.
So special. It really was in the middle of the forest, but it's actually a private land.
Yes.
And they have done some conservation work in there, and now the moorpork is happily thriving in there, and there's so many other birds. If you haven't seen that live, please go and see.
It's so good.
Sounds of birds is incredible. It mesmerized us so much that we totally lost track of the plan, and this is the biggest learning. So first of all, it was in nature, so we said, okay, let's go one day before, because the connectivity would possibly be a problem.
Yes.
We learned that on day 2 with the
Hamilton Gardens. Yes. And also again in Cambridge when we went to RDA.
True.
So we've had that twice.
City centre, it will be okay. No, it wasn't. So connectivity is something to really keep in mind. Yes. So we learned from it, and we said we'll go one day early. So on a Monday instead of a Tuesday, we'll record, and then we will edit it and we will post it on a Tuesday lunchtime as the usual live goes on.
We were there for like 4 hours. So there's 4 hours of recording to go through with no plan.
Can you imagine?
We got
so in the moment.
We were. It was beautiful. From an experience perspective, nothing comes close. Like, we were so lucky to be there. We got shouted to a gorgeous picnic. We got to take actual beautiful photos ourselves with the massive lens camera. We got to experience the ruru, the moorpork, for an hour or more after we located them. It was special. It was so special. Like, I was so grateful to be there. It was like going to the best therapy ever. So really, like, I got so much value out of being there, but we really didn't think it through from a content creation perspective. Like, we just thought, this is so rich content. It's rich, all right. It's so rich that Manu had to do 3 days of editing to get all of the posts out. So we did, Manu in particular, learned a lot from that experience.
Absolutely.
And it's, like that's something really worth thinking about, is like having some kind of content plan and not just leaving it to chance. We often have a little moment that happens during the video that was unplanned. Someone says something funny, or we try and get run over by some cars, or, something that wasn't in the plan, and we can use that content later. And that's fine if it's one or two things. But if you're expecting to just randomly find, shareable components of your live, that's not ideal. It is a good idea to kind of make a plan and think about, like, what's going to be entertaining, what's going to be educational about this.
But what will also tell a story?
Yeah.
Because you are a storyteller. Whatever the live is about, there is always a story behind it.
But
is the structure of it?
You want to curate it, is what we're saying. Is you don't want to leave it to chance. You want to know where in your footage this bit is that you can use. Because if you have to look through 4 hours of content and try and find those bits, it's a mission. And then your editing is a nightmare. So we really encourage a plan. Lives are fantastic for having, so we're doing it now, and we're going to cut little pieces out of this segment to use as our content. And you can do that too. It's a great way to create content. Like you did a live, you don't think about it too much, it's not that curated. And then you have some really natural content to use again later for more posts down the way. Perfect. But if you do a 2-hour live and you have to sift through that, like the number of times you have to watch that live, we get so sick of watching the same bits because you have to then snip it right in the perfect place, do all of the what is the words underneath? What's that called? Captions. You've got to do all the captions. And so literally you will listen to that little piece of video like 30 times in the process of editing it. And so that's okay if the segment's not that long or you know exactly where it is and you've curated it because you've built it in on purpose. But if you didn't, like we didn't with Maddox Photography, you have 4 hours of tape to review 30 times. And at the end of that, you want to throw your phone against the wall.
I also want to flag that if you are recording, you will need storage on your device.
Yes. So we really took care of the connectivity issue. When no connectivity issue, we were pre-recording. What we didn't think about was we need storage on our phones to be able to do 4 hours of filming.
Well, we did, but we didn't thought it would be 4 hours, which is a lot of storage. And most phones don't actually have that much offer because you have all the other apps and all the other data that is actually taking over. So this is not a problem with going live. This is another pro of going live.
Absolutely.
Because you recording and everything stays up in real life, real time, and you don't need to do anything to it. The captions even come in an automatic way in some on some platforms and some don't. But if you want, you can easily add that. But at least you don't have the problem of storage, and you can tell your story in a very easy way. Just take your phone, you take a quick live, you leave it there, and it's very effective because it is a way for you to communicate with the community. But if you decide
to pre-record,
please think about storage.
Yes, do that. We got lots of help. So John from Maddox Photography shared and liked and commented on all of the posts and really amplified it again. And we definitely found that is the way to get traction. So if you can get some of your nearest and dearest, some businesses that you can support, and that maybe you can have some kind of collaboration with, where you get them to do more sharing and give it a little bit more oomph behind your post, it makes a huge difference to how the algorithm picks things up. So we found that to be the case with Maddox Photography. We had one, the very first live actually, the live itself, which usually doesn't go that far because it's a long form piece of content. The live itself went quite far. And normally speaking, we wouldn't get over 100 views on a live, but we definitely got a huge viewership on that particular live, which was really cool. The other thing we did with Maddox Photography, because it's a really, there's so much interest in bird photography online. There's whole communities, like hundreds of thousands of people internationally who love this stuff. And they're all in these Facebook groups and following these hashtags. So we were able to engage with that community quite effectively by simply tagging in those groups. And so that was something we really experimented with that week, and which seems to have contributed to a really good viewership that week.
Yeah, so if you can look at what groups could actually be interested in the products or services that you provide, it could really amplify you further and come in front of the right audience.
Yeah, and that's true, like in terms of actually finding big groups with lots of viewers, but also true of finding one key influencer in that industry that you can tag in, and by tagging them in, get the opportunity to kind of get their viewers to join them. So yeah, definitely something we saw lots of success with in week 8 with Maddox Photography. And I just want to reiterate, like, it was so special.
Yeah.
It was such a special experience. Like,
Absolutely.
I will treasure it. It was one of those weeks where we left going, this is so cool. You know, like, this is like, because, you know, like, we started doing this thing, and a big part of it for us was just having cool new experiences ourselves. And that was one of those weeks where we just, like, honestly couldn't believe our luck. We were just like, this is so cool.
Yeah, but I want to mention a win that happened on that week.
Yes.
When I spoke to John, so John Parker is the founder of Maddox Photography and a very talented photographer. And I asked him about the sense, how was it for him being live, and the aftermath or the outcomes behind it, the benefits that he experienced. He said that one of the people that have been following his work for quite some time reached out saying that she never realized that it was so accessible and that she could actually do the experience, and that she actually wanted to do it in the foreseeable future, like just to organize and maybe wait for winter to come to an end. But she never realized that it was so accessible for her until she seen it live and seen us actually going through it, which is a really interesting point that we are making. Like, with the lives, you can really bring your experience to life.
100%. And definitely, you know, that we can create context for people. And one of the things that is true for us is that we are two middle-aged ladies having a go at some things that maybe other middle-aged ladies thought wasn't for them. For whatever reason, we limit ourselves based on what our expectation is of that experience. And so it was really cool to know that someone has overcome that sense of limitation just by watching us march around in the jungle. And that was one of the cool things. It felt like we were in Jurassic Park.
Yes,
it was so
so
cool.
good.
Oh
well,
cool. Okay, so the very last week, because how much time do we have left?
Oh, not much.
No.
Not much.
Okay, so the last week we went to Wharehototu, and where we also saw Jaden Hokianga, who's a tāmoko artist that operates out of Wharehototu. And we've got no time. Okay, well, very briefly, we had decided that we were going to switch roles for this last episode. And so what that meant was I was going to be doing the editing, and Manu was going to be doing the copy, because that's
the posting,
and all of that sort of stuff. So obviously that meant that what I didn't realise was all of the planning that Manu normally does ahead of the recording. We also had a sick child call in right before the video started.
What went wrong
It was just one of those days. We were very lucky that the ladies at Wharehototu, Jules and Kitty, are extremely fluid and creative, and they not too hung up on any which way that it went. So that was really positive. But two key issues were that we accidentally recorded in portrait again, which limits how we can edit. And then we also, our sound wasn't on. And it's so funny because we literally talk about the fact that we didn't have sound on in that session, and then our sound isn't on. And the funny thing is you know those pictures with like a picture and a picture and a picture through a mirror? It was kind of like that, because then we did the review and we talked about the sound being off, and our sound was off again. So I think what's worth noting is that you're going to make the same mistakes if you choose to go down this path of doing some lives, of doing some social media recording. You are going to make the same mistakes more than once. And you're going to beat yourself up a little bit. We certainly didn't feel good after that session. It just was very fly by the seat of your pants. There were lots of issues with it. There was really no plan that we were following to. We had lots of fun still in the session, but at the same time we were conscious of the things that were going wrong. And it didn't meet with our new and rising set of quality expectations as we've gone through this process. So it was definitely a strong reflection on how good we want our sessions to be, and then what is required to actually go into those sessions to ensure meeting our own expectations and the expectations of the people who are making time for us to come and share their work with you as an audience online. So it was, so we can honestly say that was, not as good as we wanted it to be. One of the things we're looking at doing to correct that is kind of make a checklist so that we don't run into these situations where actually we've forgotten simple things on repeat. Because there's a lot to think about. So actually, if you've kind of got a 10 to 20 checklist before the live starts, you can avoid 90% of all of the errors that we've had more than once. And so that's part of, the planning going forward is that we'll have an actual plan of what the content is we want to capture. 2, that we check that our camera's up the right way, that our sound is working. Those sorts of things are fairly simple. But there's quite a lot to that as well. So there's like little niggly things where you have to turn off the sound on Facebook and then, in settings and those sorts of things.
Well, that's the only way that we learn to do it. Because honestly, besides going live, you cannot sound check the mics. Yes. Because if you do a video, it uses a different platform.
Yes.
If you use the audio memory recorder, it uses another platform altogether. So we try to use other applications in order to check the sound without going live, but it's just different. Yeah. And it would work in one, it would not work going live. So the only way would be going live to check the sound before going live, which is a little bit weird. So one way, and please, if you have a better way to check it, please share with us.
Tell us.
What I'm doing at the moment is I disconnect the Facebook, within the Facebook app, I disengage the microphone. And then when I go into Facebook to record the live, it says, yes, I attach the device. So the little attachment that we have, which amplifies the little mics, the lap mics that we have. And then I go into Facebook as if I want to go live, and it prompts me to say, you need to give access to your microphone. So then I give access to the microphone, but it connects to the lap mic, right?
Yes.
So this is the way that we figured out to make it work for us. I'm sure that there is a better way. Please share it if you know it.
Absolutely.
But if nothing else, that works.
Yes.
You can use that hack.
100%. And again, in the footage we've done in the past, sound is one of the critical factors to having quality.
Oh, I totally agree.
So you really do want to figure out how to do your sound right.
Yes.
But that's the end of our review cycle.
Yes.
So we've now reviewed all 9 of the lives that we've done this season, in season 1. And next week we'll be looking to start to create more hype for more businesses. And we hope that you'll join us then.
I really, truly hope that the little learnings that we shared with you over the 3 sessions will really speed up your experience, but that you will give it a go, because going live is really not just fun.
It's fun.
It's fun. It's an experience, but it also really brings those views that and those people to learn more about the awesome work that you're doing. And why would you keep it a secret?
Yes, 100%. You don't want to keep it a secret. I challenge you, I put the wero out to you to have a go, do one live of one thing. We do long lives, but you can do a 5-minute live if you want to. You can pre-plan it, you can invite your audience to join your live, and you can do it for any topic that you like. It records onto Facebook, so you can download it later and cut it up into content. And that's one of the things most people struggle with, is that they really just don't have time to create the content. So if you do a 5-minute live, you could potentially get 3 or 4 posts out of that. And I encourage you to give that a go.
And if you tag us, we'll amplify you.
We will definitely share.
Absolutely. Just put @Aunties and we'll be there.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Cheers, Fano.
Peace out.